Welcome. I bid you welcome. This is Johnny Metal, John Clauser, the Metal Dad, coming to you from my music corner. And the W.A.S.P US tour last year was a huge success with many sold out shows. And now that the European tour is underway, the same is becoming true as shows are selling out as well. This European tour runs through May 18th, ending in Bulgaria. So get your tickets now while you still can for this European leg of the tour at waspnation.com. Also available for the European tour are meet and greet VIP tickets. This is your opportunity to meet Blackie Lawless himself, get a photo with him, a couple of autographs, and take part in an intimate Q&A session with Blackie himself. Take it from me, this is an experience you won't want to miss. Get your tickets for the VIPs while still available at waspnation.com. And don't forget, you can also purchase official W.A.S.P tour merchandise and exclusive classic design shirts at waspnation.com. European tour merchandise is now available. Welcome. I bid you welcome. This is my music corner. This is Johnny Metal, John Clauser, the Metal Dad, with my fellow Killahead, my fellow Mean Man, my fellow Neutron Bomber, my fellow Hellion, my fellow Tormentor, my fellow Wild One of all ages, John the Music Nut. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, John. How you doing, brother?
Man, I'll tell you what, it's another beautiful day in the neighborhood. Getting kind of recovered from the last week heaviness of the KFD album.
Right.
Now we get to kind of breathe a little bit and we get to talk a little bit about some double live assassins. Oh, yes. The album that of the tour that I would have seen in
Right.
Philadelphia if the show hadn't been canceled. So so on my Facebook, on the W.A.S.P Facebook group, a lot of folks seem to think this is a killer live album. And I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. Released February 24th, 1998 on the CMC International label. I went to look up the charts for this album. Yeah, I got nothing. It did not show any charting for this album. So I'm guess because CMC was a much smaller indie label that would eventually get kind of become a partner to Sanctuary Music, which you would see later on, and the kind of BMG group would kind of get all involved with that too. That's probably why there's not much chart action on this one. So, with that said, John the Music Nut, take it away, brother. Let me see what you got on this.
All right. Thank you so much, John. Before we get into that, though, I'd like to share a story with you and all of our friends who've been watching the series and commenting. Thank you again so much. So this past Tuesday night, we filmed this show on Sundays, and then we put it out on Wednesday for Wasp Wednesday. So Tuesday night, I finished my shift at work. I work from home full time. I worked out, took a shower, and I was heading to my mother's house. I always visit her on Tuesday nights. And I took a CD with me and I popped it in my car stereo. I still have a CD player. And inside of a minute after I left my street, I see flashing lights behind me.
Oh no. Oh no.
I got pulled over by the Pennsylvania State Police. And then I didn't realize I was speeding until I looked at the lights. And I was booking. I was 20 over the speed limit. I was doing about 65 and a 45.
Oh gosh. Oh no. Oh
So I
geez.
get pulled over. He raps on my window. I already got my information ready, right?
Right.
So the nice police officer says, license, registration, and your insurance info. And he goes, I got you for speeding. You're booking pretty good there. I go, I didn't even realize it until I saw your lights. And I looked at speed. I'm like, oh, okay. I have a heavy metal CD here in the car. I just wasn't really paying attention. Here, I'll play it for you. And I played a few seconds. He goes, oh, I don't believe. Oh, I believe you. But I played it. And he goes, where are you coming from? I go, I'm just coming from my house. He says, this still your address? I said, yes, it is. He goes, where are you going? I go, I'm going to visit my mom. So the cop is pulling over this 51-year-old man who's got some gray in his beard and on his head, and he's wearing a denim jean jacket. And he was listening to the CD, W.A.S.P, KFD.
Oh no. Oh man.
So he
Oh
goes
boy.
back, checks my info, comes back to the car. He goes, all right, man, I'm just going to give you a warning. Just slow down. I go, okay, thank you very much. He goes, I'm curious. Who are you listening to? I said, W.A.S.P. And he goes, never heard of them. This man must have been about 30, 32. And he goes, never heard of them. Are they an older band? I go, yes, they are. As a matter of fact, they celebrated their 40th anniversary last year. They played at Penn Speak. It was a great show. He goes, oh, okay. I go, as a matter of fact, I'm part of a show right now where we're reviewing the entire W.A.S.P catalog. And he said, okay, well, you could put this in your review. I said, I will. Thank you very much. And he let me go on my
Oh,
way.
there you go. Well, there you go. Pennsylvania's blue finest. There you go. There you
Thank,
gotta
thank you,
gotta love that.
Pennsylvania State Police, for
Uh,
just giving me a warning. And the song I was listening to was Kill Fuck Die. I just put the CD in. I wasn't I I
Oh man.
I wasn't even at the Beaumont Inn yet. I mean that's not far from my house. I was about 1.3 miles from the house.
Oh geez. Well, oh, you gotta love that.
This album will
Yeah.
get you that album. I mean, I may have said some things that weren't so kind about this album, but it will get you moving. And incidentally, I didn't have this CD last week on the show. I had ordered it, but it got stuck at the post office. I didn't get it till the next day.
Right.
So we filmed the
Right.
show Sunday. I get the CD Monday. I'm listening to it Tuesday, and what happened happened.
Yep. You
So
gotta love that.
yeah,
Gotta
so
love that. Wow.
yeah.
That's funny. That's a great story.
Thanks. I'm glad you like it. I hope y'all out there like it too. But yes,
Oh,
one more time. Kill, fuck, die. KFD. So, Double Live Assassins from 1998. Now, this is their second live album. Their first live album was Live in a Raw. They will have another live album later, which we will talk about. One thing I can say as an older man, it is harder. It's pretty hard to read the songs on the back of this album now because of that red writing.
oh,
I
yeah.
had I had to get my phone out with the flashlight to read the writing on here. There
Yep,
we
right
go.
there.
There you go.
You can't see it, but that's there you go. It's there.
Exactly.
That's what I'm gonna have to do. So
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's yep. So there you go. But having said that, I think I overranked Live in the Raw. I gave that 7.5. I think I give it a 7 now. Just because now it's really apparent how that was done. A lot of that was done in the studio. This does not have that feel at all.
no,
This is live. This is crushing. It's not recorded over loud. It takes you into the W.A.S.P experience as a live band. This is an over 2 hour album, over two CDs, and on the here's the cover here. And here you see at this point they were going through their darkest period. There's Blackie with the makeup. And the pictures in here, there's a lot of pictures on here, and they all got the white makeup and tears going down. Yep, exactly.
I mean, look at this picture of Mike Duda. I mean,
Yeah,
he didn't, I mean, that's like a primal look for him.
yes, it is.
And I'm thinking, my goodness, I mean, I couldn't see him that clearly, but I don't think he looked quite that primal
Mm-mm.
when we saw him.
Oh no, not at all. And even Stet here on the drums, there's a
Yeah.
shot of him in here. I think it's this one here, and yeah, you can tell he's got the white makeup going on too. But yeah, a lot of great pictures in here.
Mm-hmm.
You got Blackie on top of his microphone. Is that called Elvis?
That would be
That's
probably the earliest version of Elvis. I don't know if it's
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that would be Elvis.
Yep. But a lot of nice pictures in here. There's only one
Mhm.
page of liner notes, and it just says it was recorded on the Kill Fuck Die tour. And you have Chris Holmes back in the band at this point, and as we mentioned, Mike Duda, who's still with the band today, and Stet Howland on drums.
Yep.
Now, the performances on here are very vigorous. They sound like a hungry band
Mm-hmm.
hasn't tasted success yet. Blackie's vocals are spot on. Chris's guitar playing is very well done. Stet Howland's drumming excellent on here. He really adds a lot of fills into the songs that were originally on Last Command. I mean, his drumming on here it's on the Frankie Banali level, in my opinion. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
his and I say that with a lot of reference for Frankie Banali, but the performances on here are excellent.
Yes.
And even back then, they were playing a lot of the medleys. And I'm not a big fan of medleys, but W.A.S.P do medleys well. This one, we open with the medley for On Your Knees into I Don't Need No Doctor, into Hellion, into Chainsaw Charlie. Fantastic.
Yeah.
It is rip roaring. They are on fire. And they take it right into Wild Child and into Animal. The crowd sings along with the chorus on here.
Yep.
Crowd is so into this.
Yep.
Love Machine, excellent version. And then they start going more into the KFD material. Now, there is, I believe, 5 songs on here. Yes, 5 songs on here that were on KFD. This was for the KFD tour, of course. And I will tell you, and I know that Eric said this in his comments on the KFD review, and I agree completely. The songs sound a heck of a lot better live, and they're a heck of a lot more organic than
Yes.
on here on this album than they did on the original KFD album. Here, they work.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean,
I would agree.
yes, Kill Ahead works perfect here. I mean, just some of the things I've said about the vocals, yeah, okay, but it sounds a lot better in this forum. I Want to Be Somebody. You got some cool stage banner from Blackie on this one.
A little
And
confession time.
mhm, do a great version on here. Then we go into You, which You is pretty intense on the original KFD. Here, it takes on a life of its own. Not one of my favorite tracks on the album, but it again sounds much stronger live.
Yeah.
They go into Real Me, and it sounds like it just goes right into it. Like the way we were talking about, John and I were talking about this a little bit. It doesn't tell you what shows were recorded on this tour, but the way it was put together, it's not choppy, as you were saying, John. Can you add to that?
Yeah. To me, it just sounds like, when you take these multiple locations, sometimes they just kind of you can tell that there's a little bit of a choppiness in the background and in the noise and whatever this one just everything just seemed seamless.
Yes.
It just flowed very seamlessly, so until you get to the CD break. But yeah, so my hat's off to let's see, what was yeah, the Stan Kataya Katayama, I guess is his name, was the guy who mixed it, and then
Okay.
Eddie Schreier was the one who mastered it. So, but there's no other really no other production stuff along that line. But yeah,
Right.
the whole, it just seemed very seamless, and that to me is a good sounding album when you can do that. Strangers in the Night would certainly be another example of that. Mixing it over a few
Certainly.
days or whatever. So yeah, that's what I was meaning by that. So yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So Real Me's excellent on here. Then they end the first disc with two tracks from KFD, Kill Your Pretty Face and The Horror. They both, especially The Horror, sound fantastic on here. They work very well in this form. And then we go into disc two. And here we go more back into 80s, early 90s W.A.S.P. We start with Blind in Texas, excellent version. We go into Headless Children, which I like a lot. I mean, we're both big advocates of that album. Headless Children sounds great. They go into The Idol, which they do to this day, excellent version. And then we get the Crimson Idol medley. So just like today, they still hit this album hard, and they do a medley featuring Titanic Overture, The Invisible Boy, I Am One, Gypsy Meets the Boy, and Great Misconceptions of Me. This works just as well as the medley on the first disc. Little Death is the next track. That is a track that was originally on KFD. It's the fifth song from KFD on the album. And then we get a little intro here from Blackie talking about his on and off partner in crime, Mr. Chris Holmes, and talking about the police and their little discussion, Blackie, and
when
about Chris.
when you started with your story, I thought, oh gosh, please tell me you didn't get yanked out of your car and they beat the crap out of you.
No, no, no. The police were very fine. He wouldn't have any problems with me either. I mean, even when he was pulling me over, it's just like in my head, I'm like, okay,
Yep.
don't argue, just
Yep.
be
Yep.
kind.
Yep. Yep.
Again, thank you, Pennsylvania State Police, for having some sympathy with me. I was
Yes.
going very fast.
Yes.
But Mean Man's great going right into Mean Man here, which is the Chris Holmes song, I guess we should call it, because that's who it's about.
Mm-hmm.
Great job of that. And then they end with Rock and Roll to Death, which was weird because we didn't see that on our when we were talking about the KFD tour last week. I don't believe we saw Rock and Roll to Death on there. I could be, yeah, because we were saying there were no songs from Still Not Black Enough performed live. Maybe there were shows from that tour that aren't on Setlist FM. Setlist FM isn't perfect. It's just done by
No.
fans like us.
Yeah.
So maybe they only did it once. Who knows? We're not sure. But
Sure.
give you one last visual here. This is the last picture you'll see in the liner notes. And here's Blackie with the skull.
Yes. Bringing the skull and the blood back.
That's right. Indeed. The pictures kick ass. The music kicks ass. It's hard for me. I gotta go at least 8.5 here.
Yeah.
Maybe a 9. The only thing I would change on here, but I understand why they did it, is I would have had only 3 songs from KFD on here instead of 5. But I understand why they did it, because you're promoting a new album.
Yeah.
And I even put on, I listed what I would do, like Rock and Roll to Death. I would not have put it on there. I would have ended it with Black Forever, which we were saying, or they never did that song live, and they should have. And there's another song from Still Not Black Enough I put on here as well.
Sure.
I would have taken off You, despite the fact that it's a very strong performance, and I would have added Inside the Electric Circus, and I would have took off Little Death, and that's where I would have put Goodbye America.
Yeah.
But again, it's the KFD tour. He wanted to go back to the shock rock from the 80s while going in a more industrial direction with the music.
Yeah.
So it's understandable. That's the only only like minor things I would say about it, but this is a clear 8.5, possibly 9. Double Live Assassins, 1998. If you can get your hands on it, if you're, if you thought Wasp ran out of steam after Crimson Idol, check this out. This is a very strong, live, vigorous album, and it's excellent.
Yes. Yes, I completely agree with all that. I don't know if there's much I can really add to any of this because it just really is such a just a fearsome. When Blackie said on this last tour when they were getting ready to do the U.S. tour, he said, America, we are coming to hurt you. Well,
Yeah.
this I'll tell you what, this tour they were going out to hurt somebody. This is, you can hear the anger and the angst and the vitriol, in Blackie's vocals, and the music is just spot on. Mike Duda's bass for everything here sounds fantastic. Stet's doing a lot of double bass, double kick drum stuff. So he sounds good. Chris's playing was doing really good here. Of course, the opening medley, you change it up, you get or it's obviously has changed since we since this tour, when they shortened it to on your knees, torture never stops, the flame, or on your knees, the flame, the torture never stops, then inside the electric circus. So we didn't even get inside the I don't need no doctor in helling, which I know they did that a lot.
Yes.
It's interesting how much Crimson Idol stuff they did, and Chris didn't even play on that album.
That's
so
true.
it goes to show how, Chris obviously was able to pick up on all of the material and run with it, and he did. I think he did just fine with it. Wild Child sounds fantastic here. Animal sounds like Animal. Not much to say there.
Yeah.
Again, it's great hearing the crowd sing the famous line. Love Machine sounds great. No complaints there. As far as all the KFD tracks, Kill Ahead, Kill Your Pretty Face, Horror, and Little Death, they all sound. I think with Kill Your Pretty Face, I like the studio version better.
Okay.
I don't know. There's more of an emotion and an atmosphere about the studio version that I don't think quite came off well on the live album, but it still kicks you in the face. Don't get me wrong. Still a good version. It just there's something missing. And to me, and I felt a little bit the same way with you as well. Horror, I think they got it. And Little Death, I think, was much stronger here than I think on the original as well. Real Me, again, nothing really different to say there. It sounded great when we saw him. Sounded great here. Of course, you get Blind in Texas. I love the part of hey, where are we? Let's party. I was like, that was great. It was nice to hear Headless Children, and it sounded good. Sounded really good live. Nice getting all the Crimson Idol stuff. Of course, I saw where somebody said, can somebody explain why they chopped off Mean Man? And they went right into Rock and Roll to Death. I was like, well, obviously they did that as a medley. So it would be my guess. So yeah, I really don't have anything to really add to this. It is a fierce, angry, but perfect live album for KFD. Again, the tour I should have seen at the Electric Factory, and I didn't. But again, I probably would go with you with the 8.5. Couple of review sources here. All Music only gives us about a 2.25 out of 5. I don't know all the reviews with that. Chronicles of Chaos, I don't know what that is. 8 out of 10. Our good friend Martin Popoff gave this a 7 out of 10. So if anybody has that collector's guide to 90s metal, I need to look that up because I really need to know what he said about those albums. But anyway, and I read some other little reviews here and there, and everybody just loves this album. Really hardly a bad review anywhere to be found. And again, this just goes to show that these guys, Wasp was out there to do some damage and to hurt you. And yes, you don't get the visuals of the show, but still you still get a very fierce show to begin with. You know,
No question.
irregardless. So that's an awesome live album to listen to. So what else have you got? Have you got any last parting thoughts or visuals or thinking we need to do with this one?
No, not really. Just to say that this was the only thing I'd say is that this was released on CMC International, which was a great label that gave a lot of hard rock and heavy metal and even classic rock bands. It gave them a place to continue to make make strong music, to continue to explore their art when their music had gone out of favor because of grunge or adult alternative music. And, I like that music a lot as well. It did give them a forum to continue to do that. I mean, you had so many great bands. And I wrote down a few here that put out albums on CMC International. No particular order, but we got Dawkins, Accept, Blue Oyster Cults, Pat Benatar, Eddie Money, The Fix, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Kicks, Christopher Cross, Yes, 38 Special, Yngwie Malmsteen, and and Leonard Skinner, and many more. It gave them,
Wow.
yeah. There are several more that I could have talked about, but it gave them a label. I mean, when they got dropped off their major label, it gave them a new forum to create good music and good albums. I mean, you could a lot of these bands, they made some great albums on this label. So I just want to give a shout out to CMC International for
Yeah.
giving Wasp that avenue as well.
Right. And we should mention that unfortunately the label, when it got kind of part of the Sanctuary Music under the Universal and BMG and all that stuff, and all that
Yeah.
stuff, then all that stuff went away in the early 2000s, and then eventually Sanctuary and all that got sold off. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of like almost like the Frontiers label for
Yes.
of the 90s, kind of for the metal bands, and which was good. I mean, because I think I remember a couple of those Accept albums. I think wasn't them like Objection Overruled or something like that, I believe was one of them.
Yeah,
And
and
I
Death Row, their next
Death
album.
Row, I
Those
think it was.
very
Yeah.
strong albums, both of them.
Yes. So and, I believe the Yes albums was probably, if Rand Kelly was on here, he could probably tell me what Yes album it was,
Maybe
but I
Keys to Ascension,
that's probably what
maybe.
it was. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's probably right. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, there's so many labels, so many bands on the label. It just, unfortunately, the label just didn't have the legs, and
Right.
just kept getting under other bigger labels, and it just so yeah. But yeah, good stuff, very good
Thanks.
stuff. So
Oh, definitely.
all right, so yes, this is a good one to check out. Now, I think the easiest versions of this you can get is the one on. I think both of us have the Madfish label
Correct.
reissue, which is what I have here. Now,
Mhm.
true story. I actually bought this album when it first came out. So when I remember in February 24th, 1998, I actually bought the original version on CMC. But that was, of course, you got to remember this is after 1997, which I had which was a dark year. Well, things started changing, and for the better for my life at that point. So yes, while I still got the album, I never took the time to listen to it.
Mhm. Okay.
I never listened to it until sometime much later when I got this. And I finally, it's probably within like the last year, and I finally got to listen to this thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, what an album this was. But yeah, I need to contact my buddy that I gave all those to and see if I wonder if he still has them to this day. That was like 25 years ago, but
You're right.
he's probably gotten rid of them by now. But so Reed, if you're watching this show, I need to ask you that question, and not Reed Little, because we know Reed Little, we know how he feels about Wasp. But anyway,
Yeah.
all right. Well, I forgot to get to my prop for next week, but next week we go to hell. Down with the Angels, as one of the songs go.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that said, for my fellow Hellion, my fellow neutron bomber, my fellow tormentor, my fellow wild child, my fellow Widowmaker, my fellow, gosh, I can come up with too many other things. My fellow co-captain on this great journey through the W.A.S.P catalog, John the Music Nut, Johnny Metal, Johnny Clouser, the Metal Dad, coming to you from my music corner. We'll see you next week. Take care, guys.
Take care.